All right, welcome to OtterTalk number 24. Ashka, go ahead and introduce Stacy and we'll get started.
All right. Hi, everybody. Today's OtterTalk is very special to me and probably to some of you. It's about animal communication. And I invited Stacy Krafczyk, who is that's a Polish pronunciation, Stacy, of your name. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's a Polish way. Stacy, I met Stacy through Becky Van Houten when I was dealing with the loss of my mama. And Stacy at that time was in Wisconsin, and she just helped me through the tough times and helped me put the pack back together. But if you ever wondered if it works, I can attest that it does. And I'm sure there are a lot of fans, including Becky and some others on the call that met Stacy and can can share their experiences. So Stacy, with that, I let you introduce yourself and take it away. You on mute.
Sorry about that. I was listening to Robin. Apparently I muted myself. So so I'm very grateful to be here. I love Ashka as well and her furry crew. And of course, Becky. Hi for the connection and introduction. It's great to see you on here too. I have been a practicing professional animal communicator for about over 20 years. My background is I was also in my 20s and I worked at an animal shelter and I was an animal caretaker for about 9 years. And at the same time, I was also an animal control officer. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time talking today. So I had the whole police uniform, the badge, the weight belt, all that fun stuff, and would go on police bus and drug confiscation, animal cruelty, neglect. And then on the side is when I started developing my skills, and that kind of popped up through meditation. And how I got there was a dark night of the soul, where I had really horrible, crippling migraines. I was in an unhealthy relationship and eating and drinking all the wrong foods and beverages. And no Western medicine was working for me anymore. And so I was so desperate that I was going to the emergency room a couple times a week, go to work with an ice pack on my head and a bandana around it to hold the ice pack in place as I tried to work, especially in facilities with barking dogs was not the most ideal thing. But through meditation is where my gifts and abilities started coming up. And with one of my very first teacher from meditation gave me my first intuitive or psychic reading. And she had told me, oh, you talk to animals. I was like, well, duh, everyone talks to animals. And she was like, no, not the way you do. And at that point, I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew that I could work with really aggressive dogs and cats, and they would respond well to me where I was the only one that was able to touch them. So then it kind of started clicking and connecting the dots for me on how I was doing it. And then she kind of guided me more on how to do it better and doing it more clearly, even at the animal shelter or as an animal control officer. Through meditation, through classes, I started reading lots of books on psychic development. And I didn't really have a mentor in animal communication. It was kind of more like a self-taught. I had intuitive or psychic teachers, and I took lots of classes around numerology, astrology, tarot, anything that was the metaphysical part. And little by little, each of my gifts started coming up. And then I started practicing and doing a lot of things for free. And then little by little, each job fell away. And this became my full-time gig. I kicked and screamed. This is not something I wanted to do. It was not the norm. And it's been about 20 years of kind of blazing my own trail. And luckily, my last mentor and teacher, Rebecca Moravec, who's from Illinois, she was the professional animal communicator way before I was. And so she kind of gave me the skills and the tool set to, build my business as well. So it's been a blessing. I don't call it a curse, but it's been challenging. But I'm very grateful to have been able to be here and, to talk with you all, but just helping the animals, domestic and wildlife, as well as exotic animals along the way too. Also, I'll just share that I'm a professional animal communicator. I'm a Reiki master teacher, a medium, as well as an intuitive reader. I do some shamanic work, but being an animal communicator, it kind of opens up the realm in the spiritual work. And that also has to do with the mediumship, which is communicating with people and animals that have crossed over. And that helps to bring people closure, comfort, a little bit more understanding of how their animals may have felt before they died, or what may have happened prior to their passing, or just giving messages of relief or peace to their people as they're in the spirit plane, and giving them validations of them still watching over them in the spirit plane, but still being there with them on the earth plane. So it's been very profound. I'm an intuitive reader. I don't really like the word psychic, but the intuitive reader part is I can help people and give them guidance about what's going on in their personal life, with their friends, family, coworkers, bosses, etc. And I share that with my teachers, with the intuitive readings and the mentoring. It's just, a reading can help with like 3 or 4 months of like counseling and a regular conventional therapist. And so it's been very helpful to kind of get me through the tough times. But again, conventional, non-conventional, whatever works, they both work for me. And with being a Reiki master teacher, it's just an energy healing modality, and there's many formats out there. And it just does specific hand placements along animals, and there's 3 different levels. And I'm able to attune the people to help their animals as well as themselves and their humans. So Reiki, it helps like an overall sense of well-being, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and it's a great complement to Western and holistic medicine for people as well as animals. And it's non-invasive, it's not intrusive. People keep their clothes on, and animals can be laying in front of me, or they can be across the room. And most of the time I'm sending it across the states. And I can do both at the same time as I'm communicating with the animals. And about now, since I've moved to California, I've been here about 3 years. I have been doing about 95% of my business successfully over the phone. And I'm just now starting to work with a holistic vet, and I'm teaching classes, Reiki, and I'm actually in November going to be teaching a basic animal communication class in Oceanside, California. But I've done also a lot online, but I'm hoping to kind of get more of a presence here, because I love being in person. And I always say I like to make out with people's animals when I'm in person with them. But most of my business is done successfully over the phone, where people, sign up on my email or on my website. They just can schedule a 20, 30, or 60-minute appointment. And then you'll receive the information of what you need to send me. And people usually just send me a photo of their humans and animals in the household. And if there's ones that have crossed over, they can send it to me as well. And I always give the animals the floor first. So unless it's an emergency appointment, which usually is just 20 minutes, excuse me, I don't want to know anything up front. So the animals get the floor first, and they can talk about how they feel physically, emotionally, their personality, their little quirks, how they view their life, etc. And it helps to put the skepticism at bay for the humans, but also gives just the validation for the people that this really does work. The woo-woo works. So I always like to do that. And then I relay the messages to the people. And a lot of times I'll laugh as I'm giving the messages, and sometimes I cry with the people because it's very emotional. I'm also, they call it a medical intuitive. I can feel people and animals' aches, pains, ailments in my own body. And it helps to decipher what's going on with them, as well as I can help the human understand more what's going on with them. And sometimes if the treatment's working or not, and where their pain level is at. Animals normally hide, mask, and disguise their pain. That's their normal natural instinct. And usually from a pain scale 1 to, oop, I see a fur kid already. I see Jan's. On a pain scale 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. Sometimes they don't show us that they're in pain until it's like a 6, 7, sometimes an 8, or even a 9. And by the time they do show us at an 8 or a 9, there's not really much we can do for them, the treatment. And a lot of times they already know that they don't want the treatment because there's something more serious. So they kind of hide it. And we call that, the masking and disguising of the pain or discomfort. So I can kind of go in there and help the human and animal communicate and understand a little bit more what's going on. So I'll stop there. If anybody has any questions or if Ashka or Becky wants to jump in.
Well, just a few things, because I know when I met you, I was a skeptic, right? So first, the fact that my first reading was over the phone was amazing, because I didn't know that it was possible. For anyone wondering how, if it works over the phone, it definitely does. And of course, in person, it's a different level when you see the behavior of animals, and even you kind of picking up on, I think Bella at one point had upset tummy, and I could just see changes in you, and I'm like, what is happening? And you can just see that it works. So I have a bunch of stories, but maybe if anybody has questions, I let them do it before I take over.
I love it. Becky.
Yeah, so I have to say that when we brought Petey home, which was our Spinoni, when he was about 4 months old, he was having a lot of trouble when we would take him into the dog room. He never wanted to go in there. He acted like, he just couldn't be left there. And also we were trying to have him sleep in a crate next to the bed. And so he actually told you how he did not want to sleep in the crate, and that he would not have accidents if we just let him sleep on the pillow on the floor instead of in the crate. And lo and behold, he never had an accident overnight, after you let me know that he didn't want to sleep in a crate. And then you also told me that Jack, our dog that we had before, his spirit was lingering in the room in the basement, which was our kennel room. And that was making Petey really afraid, because his spirit was still there and frightening him. And it just made a whole lot of sense, actually. When we thought about it, it was very, very helpful. And then the other thing I have to say is that my nephew was killed in an automobile accident, and the help you provided to my family during that time was tremendous and meant so much to all of us. So I have to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Go ahead, Becky.
No, that's really, I just think that a lot of people don't think that animal communication or communication with spirits who have passed over is just unbelievable, but it's actually very incredibly helpful. And so it just reminds me I need to get in touch with you one of these days soon.
Well, I love that. And thank you. I would love to talk with you guys soon. And that is also a really great point. And well, the first thing is that I don't remember much from previous sessions. So regardless if it was last week or 5 months ago, or if I talk to somebody every month, I tend to forget things, which is a good thing, because that's a lot of information, to store, to hold on to, or even take notes. That's not anything that I do or can do or want to do. So, and it was a great point with Becky, is that you never know what will happen in these sessions. And I always state that I'm just the messenger in the vessel. I'm just the conduit for the messages to come through. So I really don't take any credit for it. But sometimes people and animals that have crossed over will just bulldoze their way through without me even having any photos. Because I'll be like, oh, there's a male, there's a female. Sometimes I'll hear an actual name. Sometimes I'll see the letter J. I use all of my 5 senses, and then my 6 senses, my mind's eye or my inner wisdom. And I just trust whatever comes through. And so when I preface out loud before we start each session, as I always ask for everyone's highest and greatest good, and that it be gentle, always said and delivered with love. And just in case something obscure, abstract comes through, it just needs to come through for some healing, clarity, and growth. So if something that the animal says was like, whoa, that's out of left field, or a person or animal comes through to bring comfort or closure, or even to say, hey, I just, the dog that passed just sent the woman or mom or dad the next dog. So they don't have to feel guilty and they're not replacing, that dog, but they're just filling the void. So really powerful, unexpected things can happen. And I'll go back to what Ashka said too in a second, but I had an appointment yesterday with this woman. I've talked to one of her chicks and a duck before. And yesterday I talked to, I think, 4 or 5 chickens and 2 ducks. It always blows my mind because majority of them are horse, dogs, cats. I get some birds, parrots, parakeets, but like that's the majority of the normal animals. I still talk to hamsters and guinea pigs and rabbits, fish. There have been 2 beta fish that have blown my mind as well as the humans. And just the powerful information where I literally have to move my expectations or my left brain linear chronological thinking. I have to move that out of the way and just know and trust I'm going to get whatever the person needs from that particular animal. But each of the chickens yesterday had something specific to say, as well as the 2 ducks, and they all had like a little coops together. But this woman had, and I'm going to put a post on Facebook and social media and Instagram soon about it. She has a 25 by 50 foot backyard. It's down a hill, but the chickens and the ducks have not gone in probably about 4 or 5 months to that little area where they used to go and, eat the worms and the bugs. So I asked the consensus of I put a big old APB out for the whole group and asked why. And the bossy duck came through and she said that there's a hole in the fence and that's scary. That particular duck got through the hole in the fence. And they also mentioned coyotes, but the neighbor had grabbed the duck and then brought it over and then they patched the hole. But since then, the chickens nor the ducks have went there. So I would say maybe 3 or 4 hours after appointment, the client emailed me the photo of the 6 chickens on this little hillside, just happy as a clam. The 2 ducks still scared, but she had asked the ducks, why one was so lethargic. It was depressed. There was been a lot of changes. She thought that all of them were going to be rehomed because there was a really stressful point for the human. And so we were able to clarify all that. And then the mom got a new kiddie pool and asked where they would like it and if that would be okay because they haven't really gone swimming. And so she sent me or showed me 2 videos of the ducks in the kiddie pools, happy, or one was in the pool, one was around eating the insects and bugs, but you could just tell their whole energy shifted and were so happy. And the mom, the human, said there were lots of tears because there was a lot of healing and clarity that was released for all of them. Which leads me to my next point real quick, and then I'll go back to Ashka, is that animals are like our little psychic sponges of the environment, of other animals in the house, and of their humans, regardless if it's just one human in the house and lots of animals. So they're constantly taking on our energy. They come to us as healers and teachers, animals. It's very common for them to mirror the same things that us humans are going through. It could be the physical health. The human has diabetes, the animal has diabetes. The human has a hip issue, the animal has a hip issue. The person broke a bone, the animal broke a bone or sprained a leg. And they take on the emotions. If the human's anxious, the animal's anxious. The human has trust issues, sometimes the animal has trust issues. The other thing too is if we have a really uptight human, you're going to get a really quirky, funny dog that's going to help you get out of your own way. So it's going to be the funny play that you can't get mad at this animal because the animal's like, whatever, puppies and rainbows and kittens. So it's very interesting that there's a common denominator or parallel between the humans and animals in the house. And that comes up a lot. Sometimes the animal will show me my jaw hurts and my neck and my shoulder, but then shows me an arrow to mom or to dad. And then I said, oh yeah. And so Sparky is showing me that you have issues with your jaw, neck, and shoulders. And then I'm like, yep, I was just thinking the same thing. So there's times when animals get to a place in our heart that people, we won't let them in. So when it comes from our animals, we're more receptive. Like, oh, okay, well, I can listen to that, or I can hear that. Instead of with another human where we can put the, the walls up. So that's why I always say that animals are healers and teachers. And Ashka, did you want to share one of your little quirky stories from one of your kids around that?
Well, so my first reading, and I know it's kind of gross, I was very skeptical. And one of the things that that is in that welcome email from Stacy is to send an email of your animals. So I sent an email of all my fairy dogs. And of course, the trigger for that particular meeting was really me losing Mamba. She left really suddenly, and I was struggling with it a little bit. But that's not the animal that had a lot to say. It was my Oz who was struggling with the crazy infection, and the fact that Stacy picked it up was amazing to me, because it wasn't ears, it wasn't eyes, it was his butt. So that immediately solved all my skeptical thoughts, and I was like, oh, there is something to it. So but really what I appreciated is just the information and communication flow between all my animals, and kind of helping everybody, including me, adjust to the changes in the pack and the loss of Mamba, who was our alpha for the longest time. And just our continuous meetings bring the balance to the force, to my crazy bunch of animals. And I'm looking forward to introducing the newest puppy and seeing what Miss Rachel really thinks about the puppy. So
me too. And even before, when I went to Ashka's house, I think Rachel, I don't know if her first thing that she said was no puppies. No puppies.
Yes,
If it have to be a boy. It has to be a boy. And then
right.
Ashka's like, sorry. Like, no.
Well, it's a girl, but her name is Fred. So that's how we kind of solved the boy and girl issue for the moment. But we'll see how they really feel about it when I see you next.
Oh, I love that too. And when you said that, it's almost like Rachel, because animals will know when we're talking, especially if we've talked before. She just told me just now, she says that she wanted to be the only baby girl. So it's like having Fred, it's almost just like, like the baby boy now. So that is very interesting.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. So it's very cool, very moving. And even when I'm on the phone with clients, I'm not on Zoom. I try not to be on the computer. I just the energy of it, and plus having to work and do emails, I preferred everything to be over the phone. And people will just send me the photos, and the animals will sometimes stay in the room, or they will be in the back of the room, or they'll be outside barking or sleeping. And sometimes when I'm saying something, relaying the message from the animal will get up and like look at mom or dad and be like, see, I told you so. And then like they just got up and moved. Or I take a big stretch, because again, I can feel it in my body. We're like, oh God, I feel like they just lost like 50 pounds of stress. And then the animal just stretched, or they just yawned, or they passed gas. So like, again, the comparison, the parallel where I'm feeling it, the human seeing it, as well as being in person, especially at this vet clinic where people are bringing their dogs in. One dog was looking out the window, and she had asked me about whether or not they were going to move, because the mom has 2 different houses and debating on selling one house or whatever. And she's like, the dog's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And then the human said, oh yeah, one's in Arizona and the one's here in California. I'm not sure if I'm going to move. And the dog was laying down, it sat up and then looked at the mom, just waiting for the answer, and then took a deep breath and laid back down. So we're not always aware of how in tune they are with us. which leads me to the next point is how I'm communicating with them is telepathically, is thoughts, feelings, images, emotions being transferred back and forth, human to human, human to animal, or animal to animal. I always joke too about, Dr. Dolittle with Eddie Murphy, where he's talking to the animals and the animals' mouths are moving. Telepathically, whether we're in person or over the phone, their mouths aren't moving, but they're going to show me a picture, an image, or I'll feel something in my body where I'm like, ooh, their belly hurts. Or they'll say I'm allergic to food and I'll ask what protein, and they'll show me a picture of chicken. Or they'll show me a silver and a gold bag and I'm like, oh yeah, we just changed food. So I'll be able to see pictures in my mind. Sometimes I can audibly hear things. Sometimes I'll see an actual like J, like the first letter of their name is Jack, or the animal or the person that passed. I'll say it's like playing Pictionary or charades. They have their dictionary and definition, and then I have mine, and then we kind of have to like connect the dots with the humans of like, this is the symbol I'm getting. With a horse was a 4-leaf clover, and the woman's like, oh yeah, we do that in the arena. So I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know what that was. So it was just different visuals that will sometimes be an intuitive hit right away, or sometimes we kind of have to talk it out. And then I'll get this intuitive hit of like, oh, that resonates, that makes sense. So sometimes it's an immediate, very clear, and then sometimes we just kind of have to play around with it. But most of the time it's pretty clear.
Well, but sometimes it takes a while. I remember when you were in my house and Bella was asking you if we were moving or going somewhere. And I was like, nope. And like several days later, I'm like, oh, I was looking online for apartments in Poland because I was planning to go in several months. So I was looking where I'm going to be staying. And she just picked up the apartment, which didn't make sense at the time that we were talking. So sometimes it definitely takes time to connect the dots.
That's a great point. And I remind people that they're more than welcome to take notes as we go, or sometimes they can do the recording as long as it's not interfering, because with technology, there can be feedback or delay, or if the speaker, it can be quite noisy. And they use the notes of the recording to be like, oh, now that makes sense. Or they talk to their partner or their husband and like, oh yeah, that's right. That's what we used to do. We used to go on vacation at the lake house and whatever. And so it's very interesting where I'll get the emails or the phone calls like, oh my God, I totally forgot. It makes so much sense now. And people will like fight me tooth and nail. Nope. I'm like, well, this is just what your animal's telling me. So just write it down and then come back to it later. And they'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot. And there was one cat back, we did a phone reading and she was in Wisconsin, where she said, why did you move my cream blanket? And the woman's like, there is no cream blanket. I said, yes, there's a cream blanket. No, there's not. Cat wants to know what happened. She just was adamant. And then I got an email a couple hours later. She says, oh, it's in the wash. And it was just like, why did you move my blanket? Well, I just had to wash it. My mom's dog, Teddy, he had a bed at the top of one of the steps when you first walked in the door. And he stopped laying in it. And she was like, I don't understand why Teddy stopped laying in there. And he said, it stinks. And she's like, I just washed it. And he's like, I know, it stinks. Like stinks like laundry, like potent and putrid to him, because the animal's smells or dog noses, they can smell so much more than we can. So then she re-washed it with a non-smelling, fragrance-free laundry detergent. And he laid in it the next day. Like, okay, that's good. Another story is a dog stopped going by Dad when he came home. And I said, why are you not going by Dad? And he says he smells like motor oil. And it was like a petroleum, like it smelled like I go to a gas station. And she's like, oh, he's been working on his model car in the garage a lot. And so when he comes in, he might change his clothes, but the smell on his fingers, and even wash his hands, it just stinks. So the dog's like, no, thanks. Not until you clean up, then I'll come over and hang out by you. So it can be the littlest things, or it can be, the really obvious things that throw them off. And whatever throws us off, it's going to throw our animals off. With animal communication, and this isn't placing blame, but like 90% of the issues with animals usually comes back to us. And my cat is phenomenal at just being like, hi, mom, like you forgot, like, what are you doing? So I just have to giggle and chuckle like, okay, I got it. You know, so just more clear communication, more specifics, more details. And not only are we like talking out of our mouth, but we'll send them mixed signals in our mind. So these two have to match and be congruent when we're talking, but in our mind, those pictures have to match up. One of the common things that we do with our animals, especially when we're talking about our dogs, is like, don't bark, don't bite, don't jump, you know, sit down, be quiet. So we want to speak in more of the affirmative of what we do want. And as we say no bark, the image in our mind, in our mind, we're going to show them, you know, mouth closed, no bark, mouth closed. No bite also is mouth closed, or even just saying like softer. You don't have to, you know, bite so hard, just like a soft mouth. No jump would be 4 paws on the floor. And then a calm, relaxing feeling, as well as the picture of them sitting on the floor or their butt on the floor or all 4 paws, like they're laying down, calm and relaxed. People that, you know, hate having company come over because the dogs can go mental and at the door. So sometimes having the toy box or the bucket by the door so they can grab a toy that they can show the people coming in and out. So it's like, not only tell them like, shut up, don't bark, is also okay, like put something in your mouth and you can, you know, wiggle your butt and be so happy you can say hi to everybody. We want to specifically share what we do want. People will say, oh, tell them to stop doing this. I said, okay, so what is your overall goal? What would you love for your animals to be doing? Cats, dogs, birds, horses, hamsters, guinea pigs. What's your ideal goal? And then I'll show them in my mind. And so sometimes I'll say out loud as I'm talking to the animals, if I'm doing that for the human's sake, but I'll show them that picture in their mind. My picture I'm sending to them so they can get it, but also the energy, calm and relaxed. And I also take a lot of deep breaths when I'm on the phone or in person, helps to shift the energy, but also helps them to stay in their body, the human as well as the animal. And I don't ever force a person or an animal to do something. I'll just show them what it would look like and feel like if they chose to walk better on a leash, or to not buck when their human is riding them, or if they're in the cage or perch, is to be quiet when they go to sleep at night and they don't have to scream. So it's just like just being quiet and just feeling that in their throat, but then a calm, relaxed feeling. Any questions or comments around that?
Don't be shy. I know that picturing things when I communicate after, you know, after time spent with you, I try to, you know, negotiate and communicate and share pictures in my mind with the dogs, what I would like them to do, and focusing on not what's negative, what I don't want them to do, but rather what how I want them to feel and what behavior I'd expect from them. And I don't know, it's been working well for us.
That's a great point.
Ideal,
Yes.
but it's better.
Yes, negotiating, compromise, so important. Our human kids, you know, of course, they may want McDonald's hamburger and French fries every day, and obviously we're not going to give them that every day, as well as our dogs may want ice cream every day, or our cats to be on our lap 24/7. But when we can compromise of just saying, okay, we'll get, you know, McDonald's French fries, and sometimes I actually will see the golden arches in my mind in a drive-through, and I can feel myself drooling or salivating because that animal or that dog is showing me that. Sometimes it's been, you know, back in the Midwest, they have Culvers, you know, custard. So they'll show me custard in a dish compared to ice cream in a cone. Hilarious. Also Frosty Paws, which I know a lot of you are familiar with, you know, the frozen treats in the freezer. And sometimes they'll show me like frozen blueberries as a special treat, or yogurt or cottage cheese, banana chips, popcorn, you know, crazy things. I've had dogs tell me they like pizza crust, or like potato chips or banana chips. It's been hilarious, and not everyone's doing that constantly. Or the mom is saying, no, they don't get that. No, they don't get that. And dad's like, yep, that's our special treat. And mom's like, oh, like, how dare you? Like, I didn't know that. So it's always funny to kind of witness that. But we can compromise with our animals of, going on vacation or different things and showing them who is going to stay with them for 3 or 4 days. And, who do you prefer? Do you want, neighbor Susie to come over, or do you want Uncle Josh to come? And they'll say, oh, Uncle Josh, he's more fun. He's more laid back. And we go on longer walks. Or neighbor Susie just comes over, feeds them, takes them out the back, watches TV, and then goes back home. So they'll actually show me the different scenarios, but also like how I feel their excitement or their exuberant energy. And one lady a couple weeks ago, she had asked me, I don't know which one of her dogs, where she wanted to stay, with the human sister, the human's mom, or a dog sitter. And she showed me, and I could feel the different energy for the 3 people that she had mentioned. And then she said, her aunt, which would have been the human sister. And the woman was just like, why? Why not grandma? And she's like, because her aunt has another dog and they live by the water and it's so much fun. And with grandma, she gets special treats, but she's not as active and there's no other dog, so she gets bored. So it's like, oh, I could kind of see that. But in her mind, she's like, oh, grandma's quieter. And she's like, nope, I want more activity. I want another dog to play with. And it still blows my mind of how these, their perspectives can be. And sometimes I'm just validating what the humans are already feeling or anticipating. Anybody who shares their life with an animal is already intuitively connected, just not always consciously aware of how they're communicating. So with animal communication, it's just more clear, more description, more details. Again, how it feels, how it looks for them, how it looks for you. And if the animal performed better in the ring, they'll get a nice reward or they'll get some blue ribbons. I've had animals, horses and dogs show me like a wall littered with plaques and ribbons. And one was like a stall door that just had like 4 rows of ribbons that this horse is one, and just came through very confident, like, I am a blue ribbon winner. It's just so funny and so quirky how the things that they come up with. So with the communication part is like, the human will say, ooh, I knew that. I knew they were mad at me, or like, ooh, I knew they weren't feeling good. I just wasn't sure if they hurt their leg or if it was their belly. So it just a lot of times is their own awareness of how their animal's acting or behaving differently, or like, I think my animal's depressed. The simplest thing is the animal's mad because you moved their bed. They used to be by the fireplace and you moved it. Well, I just got a Christmas tree, so I put the Christmas tree there. Just like, well, why'd you move my bed? You didn't tell me. Of course, we're paying the bills, roof's over our head, but whatever we're doing affects us is going to affect them. Another quick story is there was a woman who had a blind dog, and she rearranged the living room. And the dog wouldn't even go into the room anymore and would just stand in the hallway and then turn around and go back down the hall. And then she had asked, and I didn't even know this, and she had asked me, why is, I can't remember the dog's name, Lily, not going into the room anymore? And she said, my mom rearranged the room. She's like, oh my God, I did. So again, just not our awareness, but if that, we had a human that was blind, would we rearrange the furniture, or would we walk them around and tell them, the layout? So on the phone, she showed me like, kind of like in my mind, describing the room and the setup. And then the next day she went in the room and lay on her bed, like everything was fine. So it's just fascinating where something can be so obvious to us, like, oh, we know it's not that big a deal, where the animal's just like, whoa, wait a minute. So it's very profound. Sometimes it's the simplest thing, and sometimes it's, this woman's going to Africa in April, and the dog's like, oh, mom and dad are going to Africa in April. And I'm like, oh, you're going to Africa in April? She's like, how did you know? I'm like, well, your dog just told me, or your cat. It's wild. Another question or comment?
Is it easier for you to communicate to the past dogs or the past animals versus a living?
Both the same.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, even when I've taught classes, people are actually very surprised at how easy it is. Also, with each animal, their soul, some are very chatty Cathys, some are very like reserved and relaxed, and some are like really dopey or goofy, where I call them like puppies and rainbows and sunshines and kittens, you know, so they have this really goofy energy. And some will just like have like one or two words that just come out, and that's just enough. It just depends on that particular soul and how they were, you know, on the spirit plane as well as the earth, that their personality or their quirks are. It's a great question.
I still struggle several times a week because I lost my first wolfhound, and it just rocked my world. So I'm gonna have to set something up with you to see if you can communicate with her, because I probably would I would really like to hear how she's doing, or you know, how she felt her life was.
Definitely, I'd love to help. And that I also, just to add to that too, is that even when they pass, they don't hold resentment. They don't hold grudges. There's never like the woulda, coulda, shoulda, or anything like that. And so us as humans, we have this almost fear or trepidation, like they're going to come through and they're going to be mad at us, or you know, I didn't need to say goodbye, or no, I wish I would have been there more. I worked too much. So a lot of times they will, and again, I give them the floor first. They'll just come through with so many validations of like, tell mom and dad not to be sorry or to be regretful, or that they were at work when the animal passed. A lot of times, ooh, I got goosebumps. So goosebumps are truth bumps. But a lot of times when it comes to humans and animals, is that when we do leave and the animal passes or the human passes, it's because we weren't supposed to be there, where that love and that bond was so deep that it was like they were sparing us of having to make that decision, or even walking off into the woods and passing. You know, it's like they are such regal and stoic animals and beings. They're like, I got this, mom, dad, I got this. I'm gonna take care of this. So it's very powerful of the messages from beyond. And sometimes it's just so simple. And the validations of even songs on the radio, or you are my sunshine, a different words or themes will come. In the eye of the tiger has come through with animals before. So it's fascinating.
How do they communicate their emotions to you? Like if they're bored or sad or mad, or how do you get that from them? Do they is it a visualization of it like a sad dog, or how do they do that?
It's usually a feeling. And sometimes it's more of just like, I'm so bored. I'll hear it in my mind, or I'll feel it where it's just like, I just don't want to get off the couch, or I'm just tired of going on the same route, on the same walks, or the same trail. It's like, I want to spice it up. So I'll feel it, and sometimes I'll hear it. And sometimes the color or the aura of the animal is like gray. And that usually means stuck, confused, frustrated, or depressed. And one of the ducks yesterday was very depressed, where she didn't even want to eat. And it was like a trifold of different things of if she was going to be rehomed, the loss of other animals. And then think about her feed. She wanted some special treatment. And again, right after the phone, she perked up, and because the human thought she was getting ready to die. And she's like, nope, just bored and then sad, and was confused about what was going on. So sometimes I, again, kind of get a little bit of everything, and each animal is different. It's a great question.
Cool. So and after a dog has passed, like if they're trying to express to you that it's okay or whatever, do they just give you a feeling of like well-being, or is it just you feel it rather than them like, I don't know how dogs communicate to people when they're gone.
Yeah, the same thing. It's just like I'll get a feeling of joy or jubilation, elation, vibrant. Like it's almost like this ecstasy feeling of how they're coming through, and their bodies are fully restored. They don't, if they had a leg or arm amputated, then they're coming back with, you know, their full movement of their body. If they weren't unable to walk, they have full movement, or they're running in a field or playing with another dog that they met up with. You know, so it's a feeling, it's an image. It could be the picture of just jumping on all four paws, you know, or just like, I feel great, and you don't have to feel sad.
Cool. Thank you. If anybody else has any questions for Stacy, feel free to either open your mic and ask, or if you want to put your question in the chat, do that. Or if you want to do combination, let me know in the chat that you have a question and I'll call on you. Whatever you want to do there is fine.
So I have a silly question. Maybe it's not silly, but it's something that I think would be cool to know. Do, you know how you always say, well, oh, okay, you know, Spot went to cross the Rainbow Bridge or whatever, and I hope that she met or hope he met my mom. Does that stuff happen? Like, do they actually, like, my mom passed away breast cancer at the age of 51, 16 years ago. And so I was really hoping that she met up and she's taking care of Jules, you know, like that's the kind of stuff I just wondered, does that stuff happen?
Yes, all the time. They'll show me with humans that they met up with, other animals, and even other animals we forgot about, or our sister's dog, or an ex-husband's dog or cat. Even animals from our childhood, like they never met each other. They don't know each other. You know, my mom died before I had this dog or I had my kid, you know, and they'll come through with very specific validations. It happens very frequently. And again, a lot of times people won't send me the photos of the animals because I just have 2 animals they have on the earth they want to communicate with. But then here comes Fido, the big old personality, like, hey, like I have to talk to my mom. And then sometimes I'll feel like it's a very masculine energy. Excuse me. So I'll feel this very masculine. I'm like, is it a male? She's like, oh no, it's a very strong, dominant female dog coming through. And I'm like, oh, it's black and tan. Oh yeah, that was a Rottweiler. That was the terrier. Sometimes I said like a white or a cream dog that's with them. I'm like, well, they never met my sister's dog. Doesn't matter. Family's family, blood is blood. And even like neighbors we grew up with, or people were like our aunts or our adopted aunts and uncles, they'll come through. Just showing the support of being there with us and for our human animal family crossing to the spirit plane. Sometimes too, I'll add that is that animals, I don't know who believes in reincarnation. I never really believed in reincarnation. I was raised non-denominational, but doing this work, it's been undeniable. Some of the animals that have come back in different bodies. And so what I've learned, and so you can play around with it, you can toss out what doesn't work for you and just put some on the shelf or just whatever, but just be open, is that what I've experienced is that our soul goes from human to human, animal to animal, body to body, male or female, to learn different lessons. Sometimes we have the gift of an animal being with us in 3 or 4 different bodies. And their personality is very similar, the quirks, the traits, and sometimes they are very specific about how they're going to come back in the next body to their human. And I always say, like, if you don't believe it, that's fantastic. Just let the animal, let the proof be in the pudding. There was a dog who was a tri-colored border collie mix and was about 12 or 15 years old. His name was Cosmo when he passed. And she had one day went online on a whim, found another dog who was a border collie that was like, I think 5 or 6 years old, same coloring, not as long of hair. And then she went to the animal shelter and she's like, oh my God, this is Cosmo. Adopted the dog, brought him home, and she lived with her dad at the time. And the dog Cosmo, with his old body, would walk the dad down the driveway as the dad pulled out to go to work every day. So this new dog started walking the dad down the driveway as he pulled out. And then he would sleep behind the dad's rocking chair. And now this dog was doing it as well. So again, you can be like, oh, well, it just, maybe there were the scent of the footsteps, or maybe like that's where the dog's bed was. And so that's where the other dog's bed is. But it wasn't the same. But the dog was like, I don't know if I believe this, but he called the dog Bizarro. Like, Bizarro over there is doing some really weird stuff that Cosmo used to do. So it's just kind of funny where, again, the animals will come through at the validation, or kind of going back with what Angie was talking about, is even in the spirit plane, they will send animals our way to help fill the void or heal our heart from their physical departure. We have many soulmates, humans and animals, but sometimes we have that heart dog or cat or bird or horse that just gets us. You know, we're just like, oh, feels like a part of me died with them. So that is a deeper bond, and even the validation of their presence in our life, but they can still have that same energy even in the spirit plane. So it's just very profound and powerful things that can happen through these animal communication sessions. And one of the ways you can also connect to hear more stories is through social media, but also from my free email newsletter that comes out once, sometimes twice a month. I don't inundate people's inboxes. It's just not what I like either. But I'll share these really crazy stories of how, the communication session works, whether it's with the cat, dog, bird, or fish. It's just very powerful, and it will help validate people and their, bond with their animal and their existence here on the earth, as well as the spirit plane. Anything else?
That's amazing. So I will be emailing everybody the link to Stacy's website, but it is www.allspirithealing.com. And she's also on Facebook. And can we sign up for your newsletter on your website, or is there a different way to do that?
Yes, on my website. I believe it's on the home or the about page. There's a small box on the lower right-hand side where you just put in your email address, and then there'll probably be one coming out in a few days of just what's going on, as well as classes that I offer where I'll be doing in-person sessions. And I work with both people and animals with classes. I'm doing a 6-month course right now, just 3 hours a month for 6 months for humans. That just started last month, but it's recorded. So if somebody feels called, you're welcome to join. And you don't have to be in person. It gets recorded and sent out afterwards. And like I said, there's going to be an in-person animal communication class coming in November in California for those that are available.
I
Can I
don't
ask-
know. I think I will be available. I don't know, but I think so. I know so.
Well, it's
Well-
the first Saturday. It's 10 to 4. So yes, we can.
Mhm. I am in.
Good. Go ahead, Becky.
So I was able to take a class that Stacy held in Wisconsin. And can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And I thought it seemed so amazing, because I thought when I started trying to communicate, I ended up Stacy had everybody bring a picture of an animal to share to the class. And everybody then got somebody else's animal to communicate with. And I got Stacy's cat to communicate with that day. And I could get all these images in my mind. And I thought, I'm just making this stuff up. How is this coming to me? I can't believe it. And then when I started talking about Stacy's cat, who I've never seen before, Stacy said, you've really gotten in touch, and she's telling you things that I know to be true. And for me, another person in the class was definitely able to get the picture of the dog that I had brought to the class as well. And it astounded me how this person that I did not know was able to, after studying and taking this day-long class with Stacy, was able to tell me so much about my dog that it's got to be for real. I am a convinced person, and I think it's very worthwhile learning to communicate better with your own animals as well as with somebody else's animals. It's tremendous. So I'm giving a testimonial.
Well, thank you. And it also, it is very easy, and you're kind of what I had mentioned before. It's like, you'll be surprised at how easy it is, but also how simple. But sometimes even before we ask a question, whether it comes out loud through our mouth or it's a thought in our mind, lightning quick, our animals already responded. When we practice in class and pass out photos, it's like the animals will sometimes already start to communicate before you even ask the question. So it'll tell you what they want. And that's why I always give the animals the floor first. And if people have questions, I always say, write them down. Do not send them to me. I'm not going to open them. But a lot of times the animals will answer the questions that the human has written down. So it is very common. And I always say, like, to change it, like if the cat is showing me a bird bath, I'm like, oh, do you mean on the porch? And they'll be like, no, the bird bath in the backyard by the kitchen window. You know, so then I'll show that or share that. So it's very liberating as well as exciting to get these validations and these intuitive hits. And then you go home and you start practicing more. One exercise I share too that you can do even after class is if your animal is sleeping, whether they're in the room with you or in the back bedroom, is in your mind, you can call them, you know, Sparky, Sparky, Sparky. So in your mind, you're like calling them, but you're kind of sending a telepathic picture and a feeling of like, hey, open your eyes and then come meet me in the living room. Or they're sleeping and then you show them the food dish, like, you know, I'm going to give you a treat. Or go grab your favorite toy, whether it's the purple elephant or it's the yellow tennis ball. You know, so you can, in your mind, start showing them what you want. And then when the animal comes and grabs the toy, you're just like, holy crap, this stuff really does work. You know, so you can just kind of play around with it a little bit more and just, again, specifics, clarities, details, and the end goal of what exactly that you want. That's also where I'll see the dog jumping into the car and then being like, shotgun, you know, I got shotgun. I'm like, no, the dog sits in the back seat. I'm like, well, your dog wants to ride shotgun, or like the very back, you know, the hatchback or whatever it may be in their crate. So it's very interesting what they'll come through with. And then the one other piece is, then I'll see if anybody has any questions or we'll wrap it up. It's up to you guys, but, or we have time for a quick reading with somebody. If there's a dog, which I think I already know, but, oh, see, I already lost it. Oh, to schedule online. So it's 20, 30 or 60-minute appointment. And there's a big, huge button that says schedule an appointment. Right now I'm booked until the very last week in November. And once you get scheduled online, you will get put on like the waiting list. And sometimes I will literally call the 8th or 9th or 10th person, and it's first come, first serve. So whoever I get a hold of first, regardless if you scheduled, you know, a week from then, or if it's already to the last month, that's just first come, first serve, but you'll get bumped up, you know, that way. And if there is an emergency or a crisis, it's an additional $50 fee, and I can normally get you in within a few days if there's a health crisis or just behavior, it's kind of weird or awkward. But it also depends if I'm traveling or what my schedule is like. And I've kind of been dealing with a sick cat, my girl, so I haven't been able to really squeeze anybody in, but, you know, just kind of putting that option out there as well. Go ahead, Becky.
Okay, so I think I know the answer to this, but I know that sometimes we actually recently had one of the Otterhounds lost. And I know there are certain people that are able to kind of communicate to help find lost animals. So is that something that you do, or do you recommend someone for that?
Yes, I have 2 people, reliable sources that I refer people to. That is not my specialty. It's exhausting. It's draining. A lot of times, even really smart animals are very disorientated, and it's hard to communicate with the human because they're frenetic, and on the animal, and it's just, I just don't have the bandwidth for that specialty. But I have 2 people that I recommend that I believe I sent to Ashka as well. One of the gentlemen's name is Tim Link. He actually uses a method called dowsing with a pendulum over a map. So you just send him the area where the animal is lost, and then he uses a map, and then he sends like little red pins of where the last animal was, where that he is being shown photos. And another colleague of mine is Tammy Bratton. She's in Missouri, also very gifted animal communicator, but that she is phenomenal. She works with a lot of rescues, a lot of shelters, and has been able to find numerous animals locally for her. And sometimes they like literally talk to her at night. So her and her boyfriend get in the car at 2, 3 in the morning, and they go find this dog. But it's also the energy of being very clear, very, very direct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Pleasure. All right, Angie, what dog do you have right there? Sorry. You have to unmute, darling.
Sorry, I have Widow with me right now.
Could you show me?
Oh, sure. Can you see her?
No.
Widow. Look,
What color is she?
she's black.
Black.
Yeah.
Oh, is she a Newfie?
Yes. Yeah,
How
she,
old?
she is a year old widow. Look, look. Say hi.
Is she your only fur kid?
No, I have 4. I have an Otterhound, an Irish Wolfhound, a Briard, and a Newfoundland.
And is she the baby?
She's the baby.
It's funny because I keep seeing a pit bull around you. Did you have a pit bull?
Never. Mm-mm.
Oh, it's so funny. I don't know if there was a spotted, like a gray and white, like a pit bull or pit bull mix, but it was interesting. I kept seeing it. So regardless if it's around you or friends or not, but I just saw this big old blockhead, which reminded me of a pit bull.
Yeah, no, I've never had a pit bull.
That's okay. So if you want to do a quick little chitty chat, if you're open for that, otherwise I could see if somebody else wants to.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I would love to.
Did you want to chat with Willow?
Yeah, widow, I would love to. Yeah. She's kind of our problem child, so I'd love to know why she is the way she is.
Okay, well, Robin, are you okay if I do this for a quick minute? Ashka,
Absolutely.
okay? All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm just gonna have you take a nice deep breath. I remind everyone to breathe throughout the session, and again, I'll take deep breaths because it helps to shift my energy. I have people like wiggle out their fingers and toes, and people always laugh when I say squeeze your glutes, and I'm just like, what? But when we squeeze our glutes, it gets us out of our head and into our body. So 90% of us as humans, we live in our head all the time. So we want to kind of get present in our body. And I always preface each session with a prayer, asking for whatever is needed for everyone's highest and greatest good, that it be gentle and always said and delivered with love. So in case something obscure, abstract comes through, it's just coming through for healing, clarity, and growth. So when you're ready, I'll have you say your first name, all 4 of your kids' names, but we're just going to focus on Willow. But I always like everyone to feel included.
Okay.
And we'll go from there.
Okay. So her name is Widow with a D.
Oh, Widow, thank you.
So my name is Angie Bixler. My 4 kids' names are
In order of age.
in order of age. Hope.
Very important.
Okay. Hope, Oakley, Zen, Zenyatta, and Widow.
Ooh, Oakley's naughty. I just got this like little cute little spunky naughty energy. Very cute. All right. So just keep breathing. The first thing I get when I connect with Widow is 1, she doesn't like her name. 2, she asks with question marks if you're going to keep her. 3, she has a nervous energy about her. It's almost like I want to pace with her. She feels unsettled. And then I get some belly disruptions where I can feel it 1 to 10 in my own belly. Between a 2 to a 3 of not feeling so good. Regardless if she's showing signs or symptoms, it's like whether I want to go outside, eat grass, but just there's this nervous energy. So when I go to animals' bellies, sometimes it's emotional, and that's where animals can hold their pain, discomfort, nervousness, concern, as well as there can be some physical digestive issues. But it makes me want to go eat grass if I were a dog, and if it were me as a human, I'd want to drink a ginger ale or take ginger pills. But there is a nervous energy that I feel both sides, half physical, half emotional. She's a worrywart, but she wanted to know also what happened to a brother, because there was a strong connection with the boy. And regardless if this makes sense now, again, this is their perspective, which can be different than our human perspective. 4 paws on the floor, different than our 2 legs standing above and hovering over. But when I connect with her, it's like she's nervous and I just want to pant almost. And so whether or not she's actually doing that now, but there is a quite a nervous energy with her. And she feels like at one time it was like you not regretted getting her, but had questioned it. So even if we never said something out loud, it could also be just what we thought in our head, like, well, this is a lot of dog that we're not used to. but in her mind, she is a little bit of a worrywart in her head and how she overthinks things. Do you understand that?
I do completely. That is 110% true. We had lost our 4-year-old Irish Wolfhound unexpectedly. And my friend knew that my fiance was taking it very hard because like it was her girl, you know, like, it was his girl. And she ended up dropping, like she bred the Newfoundlands, and we went to see them, and I thought, well, you know, I always wanted the Newfoundland. I always thought, you know, it would be cool to see what they are as a breed. I wasn't expecting it to show up on my front porch, and it was very quick. It was a quick situation, and I don't think we were ready. And I wasn't prepared for another puppy. I wasn't prepared for you know, just to start with another dog. And so I think that's where you're getting the unsettledness, because oh, she's so wet. She's constantly in the pool and comes in the house through the doggy door and shakes, and it's water all over the place. But more than that, she's a very resource guarding dog. And I can see where I don't get rid of my dogs. My dogs are my family. So she's here to stay forever, but
Okay.
we've discussed it several times. You know, what are we going to do? Do we, you know, when we first got her, do we want to keep her or do we want to give her back to the breeder? Because it just, if my other dogs would come around, she would just growl.
Okay.
And I'd have to walk away, or else I would have to push her off the couch because she was resource guarding me.
Okay, so let's just take a moment, breathe.
Okay.
So again, very common. And again, I do this with everybody. But what you said too is like we thought about numerous times, and then we also don't get rid of our dogs. But in their mind, they're reading our thoughts in our mind all the time. So they're kind of like looking over to their shoulder, still haven't quite unpacked their energetic bags. It feels like her coming to you also was very abrupt. Like she didn't get the closure that she needed and fully understand about leaving, you know, the place where she was, but also this brother to her.
Yes, she did. She was very close with the brother in the litter. But she's also very close to her brother, human brother too, that went to college.
Let me just check the difference. Yes, but I see that, but I feel more of the deep wound that I feel in my own heart, where I'm like, oh, I feel like it was just a big old tinge, and different than the human brother that left to go to college. So we'll let her know that her brother at home is safe.
Okay.
Well, she wants to know if she'll see him again.
Her
The
little
other dog brother.
No, I don't even know where he's at.
Okay. So sometimes we as humans need closure. Also for the animals, just kind of connect the dots. Sometimes they'll understand, boom, right away. And sometimes it may take a couple of days. So what we can do to help her, oh, she doesn't like her name. So she keeps going back to her name. And I asked what she wants. It's something like.
What drives me nuts? This. Did you see her? Can you see her?
She says she's barking at a dog or out the window.
Yeah, she's barking at my old girl, Hope. This is what she does. She just stands there and torments the crap out of her by just barking in her face.
She says she wants to play, but something just lifted and shifted off of her where I felt like almost this happy, like a clearing that just happened. And she enjoys getting a rise out of her as well as a rise out of you. So
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so you can turn around, just grab her collar and bring her back if you don't mind.
Whatever. No.
She says she'd like to be called Winnie.
Winnie?
Is that a possibility?
We call her Witty, Widdy.
She says Witty or Winnie, but it's like widow is a negative connotation to her.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
no, thank you.
I didn't like widow either. Hold on. Okay, get over here and sit down. I didn't like widow either, but that was the only way that he said that we would keep her, is if we named her Widow, because that's what his black truck is, a Black Widow edition. So he was like, well, we'll name her Widow. And then if we can name her Widow, we'll keep her. And I said, okay. And he was like, Drats, because he wasn't ready for another dog either. So, but yeah, but this is,
Yes. So Hope is cute because she's feeling better. It's almost just like, finally, she's like, thank you for your help.
yeah.
Yeah.
But Hope's getting karma is what is, because she was
Yeah,
pain in the
it's
butt for the
common.
longest time too. So,
Very common.
yeah.
So what we can do is just let Winnie or Whitty know that you are going to keep her. And then the rules or the structure is asking her to behave herself, as well as Hope is like, I want to talk now. I want to talk now.
No, that's Zenyatta, my Irish wolfhound.
Who is that?
That's Zenyatta, my Irish
Zenyatta?
wolfhound. Yeah, those two they're best friends. They play constantly. The Newfoundland and the Irish wolfhound are like this. They're like besties.
No, but I can feel Hope because she has this very regal and dignified energy. She's like, I want to talk. So it's like everybody's wanting to come in and play and to talk now. But I'm just kind of separating everybody so we can connect to Willow, Winnie, whatever you want to call her,
Okay.
Whitty. And you might have to play around with it and then it'll kind of click. But her energy when we first start, even when you showed me on the video, it was great. And so even when she turned around and was playing or trying to play and antagonize Hope, but there was a nice shift where I energetically feel like I want to like vomit energetically, but it's like this huge release off of her stomach and her chest and even like my head. I could feel it being lighter. She did show me too of feeling a little constipated and like a little itchy around her butt and anal glands.
Okay.
Regardless of like her wanting to scoot or not, but it just like not feeling like it's easy and fluid. So just kind of keep an eye on that.
Okay.
But overall, she says she's not say happy, but content, but knowing that you are going to keep her, but then also we'll talk more specifically real quick before we wrap it up about, besides resource guarding, like what is your ideal goal or vision of having her in your house, but also what would her job or her role be?
She's going to be hopefully a therapy dog. I really want to get her into therapy work, to go to the schools and to the nursing homes, the hospitals. That's what my dogs all do. Except for Hope, she's the old girl. She doesn't do anything anymore. But I really want her to be a well-rounded dog. I mean, she gets along with other dogs. She loves people. She loves kids. I just don't like when I'm in public and another dog comes towards us, she tries to lunge at the dog to guard me. And I don't like that. Now, if she's off lead, like we went to the puppy paddle in town when the pool was closing, we went to the doggy paddle. She was fine. She was completely fine off lead because nobody was around me. And if
Okay.
another dog came around me, I walked away and then she was fine.
All right. So the first thing is that now that she's saying that she gets to be a therapy dog, but she says, I don't want to be for like another year. She can go through the training courses, but she still wants to be a dog, but she wants to be able to be a puppy.
Okay. Okay.
So she'll still take training and structure discipline to a degree, but she's not ready for the fun to get trained out of her. So even though it's like still going to be fun, especially with kids, because she's all about the kids, the elderly, not so much. Or hospice, no thank you. But if they were like rehabbing on their way out and up, that's more of an upbeat feeling she said she would go for and go with. But she's more about the effervescent energy of love, play, and fun.
Okay.
And then, oh my gosh.
This is Oakley.
Hi, Oakley.
She's my beautiful clown.
She is. Yeah. With the resource guarding, we'll just show her like a sense of calm, especially if people are going to be approaching you with other animals, especially when she's on lead. But just what we want is her to be a little bit more relaxed, feeling her forepaws on the earth, maybe have her do a sit stay, but that you can tell her and reassure her that she's safe. She's going to be your forever dog. Even if you say hi to other dogs, that she'll always go back in the car with you and go back home. So just showing her the bond and the picture, you guys being together, and that other dogs are not a threat, but it's like just to say hi and then keep them going on their way. You know,
Okay.
so it's just even like a green light, but also like a little yellow fence of like, that's okay, they can stay here, but we're safe, we're protected together.
Okay.
And energetically right there, and we'll wrap it up with this, but I just felt her like almost past gas, where there's like this a nice energetic release. But the tail represents what we call the root chakra, which is the foundation, set safety and security for humans and people. It's our tailbone for humans. It's their tail chakra for the dogs, regardless if they have a tail or not. But I just took a nice deep breath, and the gray clouds over my head kind of shifted. So just telling her out loud, but just showing her the pictures that you guys are going to go home together, even the separation, saying hi, keep it moving. Same thing with her being on the couch, other animals being around, like it's all safe. We're all family.
Thank you.
Thank you. She was persistent because again, it was very, very interesting. And I'd be curious who this big blockhead dog would be that's still around you. So it's very
Yeah, I'm not,
That's okay.
I don't
It doesn't-
dislike pit bulls, but I would never have one. I like my
Right.
stuff.
It could be just even around you where it's friends, family, whatever. You sometimes people are the messengers for other people's animals. So just write it down, let it go. We're not gonna get hung up on it. But thank you for being
Thank
open
you.
and allowing me
I
to
love
be.
it.
Yes, it was great. Thank
I
you.
appreciate it, but I will be contacting you. Thank
I
you
look
so
forward to
much.
it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashka, for doing this. This was amazing.
Yes, thank you, Ashka. And thank you to Robin for facilitating all of this.
My pleasure. It was amazing. So if there's any other questions, act now or you'll lose your chance. Thank you so much, Stacy. It was amazing.
Thanks, Stacy.
It was a great Otter Talk, and we really all appreciate it. I'll be sending that once I get it on YouTube. I will send the link to everybody, and I will also send the link to Stacy's email, and you can sign up for her newsletter or contact her through that email address. Feel free to look at our other. I got a dog licking my. Hey,
Like, hi, Mom. Hi.
that dog talk? That's funny. She's like, wait a minute. So feel free to check out our other Otter Talk videos on YouTube as well. But thank you.
Thank you. It was an honor. Thank you all. And hopefully gave you some food for thought and just some little tips and tricks you guys can do at home. And feel free to email and share your stories. If you have other further questions on how to set up an appointment, you can contact me as well. But otherwise, it takes like 4 super easy steps to schedule online.
And it's
Thanks,
easy to find
Stacy.
on there. I saw it when I was looking up your email address. It was right there. So easy to find here.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. It's great seeing you too, Becky.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Thank you, Stacy.